welcome to Soccer Supernova with me, Amy Canavan, the newest chat show being brought to you by A State of Mind. On the show, I'll be chatting with some of the most interesting ex-professional footballers kicking around, as well as some of life's good guys. And it's safe to say my first guest today more than fits that bill. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by David Duke, MBE. David, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Obviously, despite what's going on in the world, I'm feeling okay, and just keeping busy. That's all you can do. It keep busy, trying to stay positive, and try to get out and about as much as I can, just to get a fresh air.
Absolutely.
Aye, I'm okay. I'm good, and I'm delighted to be here.
Good stuff. Well, thanks very much for joining us, like we say, on the inaugural show of this. Lucky you. If anything goes wrong, it's we'll just panic together.
Yeah, and if there's no other shows after this, it's because I'm.
Well, exactly. It's just you're that good. We'll just end on a high. Start and end on a high. So, if anyone doesn't know you, David, obviously you are the founder of Street Soccer Scotland. I know you're quite a humble guy. So I could sit and describe your whole bio. I know already I chucked in the MBE there. It's not something that you scream about too much, but I think it's well worth a mention. So, for anyone who doesn't know about Street Soccer, go on, tell us a wee bit.
So Street Soccer is a charity which was set up nearly 12 years ago. With the whole purpose of it was to kind of bring people together. The origin of it was try to reach out to people who were experiencing homelessness, mental health, maybe battling addiction, and using the power of football to unite people, bring them together, give people a safe space and access to maybe support that they never knew they could get. But obviously using that football as the hook as such, to bring a wee bit of structure and a wee bit of purpose, into somebody's week. And as football is a great uniter. It brings you together, whether it's watching or playing. And we did that 12 years ago, and we've just tried to keep it going and trying to reach as many people as possible. It's the story behind it was obviously my own journey in terms of using football to turn things around. And we're today we're across the whole of Scotland, and we're also in London as well now.
Absolutely. It's like you say, it's really took a hold. You touched on it there, and obviously it's came from your own experience, and I've heard you before, you've said that it's lived experience, and I think that's where these best sort of social enterprises come from. So can you talk a little bit more about the impact that football had, and obviously what your experience was right back when you were young?
Yeah, I mean, and you touched on it there in terms of lived experience. It's so important that you're trying to create things that provide solutions for people. It's really important to bring lived experience into the heart of it. I mean, we've got, for example, in Glasgow, we've got 5 full-time coordinators, and every one of them has got lived experience and came through the street soccer program, so that, not only have they got the passion and the effort and the skills, but, they've got that understanding about not what something looks like, but what it actually feels like, because homelessness, addiction, mental health, unless you've experienced it, it's very different to feel it than to look at it, and what that does, and the consequences of that, in terms of how you see yourself, and whole self-worth stuff and all that. So I think it's really important. And going back to my own journey, I grew up in Govan, football daft, like any young guy growing up in Govan or growing up in Scotland, and it was always a big part of my life through school and early youth. But when you grow up, I grew up in poverty. Father's an alcoholic, mum and dad split up when I was like 13, so I was left with just my dad and stuff. And football took a back seat, because in order to progress in football and stuff like that, you need a bit of support, and I had other things to take care of in terms of the house and stuff like that. And so I fell away from, not only I left school when I was like 13, 14, and then just slowly drifted out of football. And for then, for 14, 15 to was about 20, 21, I was just floating about, not in and out of work, and just trying to find a way to kind of make ends meet and stuff like that, and support my dad at the time. And then I kind of moved away from my dad and kind of done my own thing and all that. And then about a year later, he was found. His addiction kind of took his life. He passed away, and I just went into a state of shock and kind of, couldn't deal with it in terms of, I kind of blocked it out, pretended it wasn't there, and used alcohol and anything else as a crutch, just to kind of block out my feelings and my emotions. And it got to the stage where I'd kind of cut myself off for everyone. And so I was working at the time, working in a bar, and because my life was so chaotic, I couldn't maintain that, and lost my job and lost my house, and then ended up homeless. And again, because I'd already cut myself off for everyone because of kind of where I was at, it made it harder for me to kind of reach out to kind of ask for support, from family and stuff like that. Who would have given it, but I kind of decided to do it myself, and spent a couple of years, in terms of, homeless, going from hostel to hostel, absolutely no kind of self-esteem, no self-worth, just. And when you're in that situation, things like today, obviously I'm not homeless anymore, and I've got a bit of structure in my life, but the decisions I make today are very different to the decisions I've made back then, because I never cared. You never really valued your own health and your own worth. And that was life. Basically, you're waking up in the morning, nowhere to go, nowhere to be. You're just trying to kind of, you were just kind of existing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're only living, you're existing. And then, fortunately, I was living in a young person's supported accommodation, and as I say, football was always something I was passionate about, but I kind of cut myself off from it and kind of fell away from it. And I seen an advert in one of the young person's accommodation that I was in. And it was advertising a tournament, which the Big Issue were running, to find a Scotland team to take part in the Homeless World Cup, which is being held in Sweden. And then, so that was a great opportunity. But even I remember the day of the tournament, I had to be dragged out of the building to go, just because I was at that stage, where good things never happened to me.
Yeah.
So even when you're given an opportunity, you think somebody's going to take it away anyway. So you kind of put up the shutters, and you make it end yourself, as opposed to somebody telling you're not on the team. That was the mindset, and that was where I was at. But I went down, met some of the staff there, met the coaches, met Ali Dawson, who was a kind of former Rangers captain who was coaching the team. And suddenly got a role model, in terms of Ali and the staff, and just had somebody to look up to, and somebody kind of showed a wee bit of belief in you, So for the next 3 months, it was a kind of whirlwind, because I was suddenly kind of going from doing nothing to suddenly having, and it sounds, it doesn't sound a lot, but 2 training sessions a week that I could look forward to. So, the environment I was in, I was living in a building with like 30 other people. And so you're always tempted with, do you want to go and drink, or do you want to smoke hash, or whatever, do you know what I mean? But because of the football, I was just saying to people, look, I'm staying, stay away from my door type thing. I'm putting my head down, I've got football tomorrow. And so I started to build a kind of, a healthier lifestyle, and because the football was my focus.
You had an aim, I
had a goal and a purpose, and you wanted to make sure that when you're on the pitch, because you still hadn't made the team. The 8 players go to the Homeless World Cup, and so we were training as a group of 12 with 8 players being selected 2 weeks before the tournament. So you're trying to kind of give it your best shot. Do you know what I mean? Kind of going to the gym and all that type stuff as well, and try things like eating better. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just that way. When you start exercising, then you start thinking about what you're eating. So naturally, it's just that your health's better. And then because I was getting a bit more healthy, my thinking was getting healthier as well.
Yeah.
And I was much more self-aware, and kind of my decision making was better. And then I got into the team, and we get picked up. As I say, we travelled to Sweden, played in this kind of tournament. There was 27 countries there. Played in the kind of the town square in Sweden. And it was amazing, and it was, yes, it was great to represent your country, but just to kind of being this kind of, surrounding with people from all over the world who'd kind of shared similar life experiences, and it was just really, really inspiring. And then, that kind of became a catalyst. But there was a dip, because when I came back, I was still homeless.
Yeah.
I just had this focus, had this kind of 3 months training where I had a goal which I'd now achieved because I went to the tournament, kind of got to the semi-finals and stuff like that. But when I came back, it was like I was kind of back to square one.
Aye.
because the team was only selected just to kind of, the training was all about this tournament, and there wasn't a kind of street soccer at the time or anything where I could have kind of dropped back into.
There was no progression sort of thing. Aye.
Yeah. I mean, it was a life-changing experience, but again, for me, it was just a case of, right, I was at that crossroad, and thankfully, my support worker in the young person's accommodation suggested that I kind of, I think I don't go back the way, I keep going forward. And so I started volunteering with a boys' club, a football club in Glasgow. Moss Park Boys Club, it was called. And again, it gave me that structure. So on a Monday night, a Wednesday night, a Friday night, I was out coaching under 13s and under 14s and stuff like that, taking the games on a Sunday. So it allowed me to kind of keep that structure, keep that focus, give me that reason not to go and get drunk in the park or not. Do you know what I mean? It gave me that kind of responsibility.
Aye, responsibility, exactly.
Yeah, and that allowed me to grow a wee bit. And then I got my house. Because I was ready, I mean, you should always be ready to get a house. Everybody should get a house, But if I'd got that, maybe if I'd got it a wee bit earlier, things might have turned out different for me. But I'd got my house. But the most important thing was when I got that house, I had a life outside it. Because I'd met the circle that I was mixing with the other coaches at the football club. And it was in the kind of same area as well, which was handy.
Yeah.
But, because when I think back, if I just went from, being kind of having nowhere to go, nothing to do, and all that, just into a house, my house would be a prison. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't, be sitting in it all day. Whereas, thankfully, I had that kind of volunteering to kind of look forward to. And then it just kind of, I just had that hunger to kind of succeed in something, because I hadn't succeeded in anything. And I thought it would have been football coaching, when you start coaching, you think, oh, I'm going to coach for a professional club and all.
Exactly, yeah.
Aye. But actually, the way life's got a path for you, and one of the guys that I worked with, he kind of got me into youth work, so I started doing youth work. And then I decided to go to college. As I said, didn't have a standard grade to my name. So I went to college, did a course in work at HNC, working with communities, because I knew that would get me into a job because I had the qualification. So I stuck into that for a year whilst volunteering. And then I got a full-time job working in kind of homelessness with the Big Issue Foundation. And then I was also doing youth work at night with Glasgow City Council, kind of in the Gorbals and Castlemilk and all that, doing kind of youth work and street football and all that. And then during that period, I also took over the Homeless World Cup stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The Big Issue, they had, it was just like a one-off project every year for them, but
right.
No one really kind of wanted to kind of take it further. So I used to do it in my spare time. So I worked full time for the Big Issue. So I'd do it. I'd fit in training on a Wednesday, which is my kind of day off, because that was the day before the magazine came out. So that was your kind of day off. And then Sunday was my other day off. So a Wednesday and a Sunday is when I start doing the training and trials and all that. And I managed the team, and obviously we kind of had good success, And
absolutely.
And then in 2008, I just to kind of, I'd been off the job, kind of doing coaching and stuff like that. I was on the brink of moving to Australia. I got my visa and my paperwork and all that type stuff. Wasted 120 quid or something because I never went. Do you know what I mean? But and then through speaking to folk at kind of Mail at the Homeless World Cup and different people, I decided that my job was here, and I decided to set up street soccer. Got a kind of free £3,000 start-up grant, and moved from Glasgow to Edinburgh because Edinburgh I wanted it to be for both cities and stuff like that. And my plan was only to move to Edinburgh for like 6 months just to get it set up. So I'd get my house going in Glasgow. But I decided to stay an extra 6 months, and then it was.
And now we've
and
nicked you.
And now I've been here for like 12 years. Do you know what I mean?
Leith.
Leith, I love Leith. Leith's the most, like, I've been in a couple of different areas in Edinburgh, but Leith just reminds me of home. You know, I'm from Govan, do you know what I mean? And Govan's on the water. You know, it's got a shipbuilding history and all that. So, you know, and it's like, you know, I like, Leith reminds me of home. Do you know what I mean?
It's that comfort.
Yeah, so I love it. I love Leith. I'm kind of adopted Leither. And so I end up just staying, you know, and here we are.
So you touched on it there, obviously, the Homeless World Cup. As we've said, you're very humble. You won it in 2007, didn't you, as the coach? So you've done more than all right with the success. I've heard you say before, it's one of those ones that you realised you're around folk that there's always people worse off than you. And is that sort of where the foundation then of street soccer came from? As you say, obviously you came through here, you got the £3,000 grant, but you really have kicked on and you really are making a difference. Yeah,
I mean, you can only try, you know. If you can help one person, then, you know, I think it's important that we all kind of try and look out for each other, you know. And I was just chatting the other day about it. I mean, some of the best decisions that I've made are the people that I've brought into the organisation. You know, I've never looked at anybody's CV in the whole organisation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have anyway. I don't read much, but what I just do is I hire based on the person, you know. And there's two things you need: is passion, you know, passion to help other people, and effort. See, if you get passion and effort, that's all you need, man. You don't need degrees. You don't need, you know what I mean? You just need to have a big heart and combine that with passion and effort. And, you know, the success of street soccer and stuff like that. And as I say, we're still a baby. We're only 12, you know, we're still kind of grown up. But, you know, it's down to the guys and lassies that work for us and volunteer for us and support us on the outside as well. And obviously the players, because, you know, the courage just to even turn up to a session for the first time, you know, I've been there. I had to get dragged out. Do you know what I mean? It's just stepping across that white line is a win, you know, and it's just about trying to achieve these small wins as you go and stuff like that. And as I say, we're lucky, you know, it's hard to run an organisation, you know, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of financial pressure, try to, you know, make sure you get everybody's wages covered and funding to book pitches and all that type of stuff. And, you know, especially in the state of the world today in terms of the economy. And so it's tough, you know, but, you know, something that's worth it, because if you can help one person, then your job's been done.
You touched on it there, and we touched on it at the start of the show. Obviously, like you say, it's a difficult time we find ourselves in here, but the sort of thing that everyone's struggling with is the isolation and the sort of the economic struggles and just the sort of lack of connection with society. Now we're in a worldwide crisis here, but that's been a crisis that you've been in, but it's sort of a crisis that a lot of people are in still. And that's obviously what street soccer's here to help with. Yeah,
I mean, you know, often, you know, before the pandemic, you know, not many people in the world, or certainly in Scotland, not many people had experienced that kind of loneliness and being cut off from friends and family, and you know, the insecurity, financial insecurity around your job, and your kind of purpose being removed, you know, actually having to kind of sit down, right, what am I going to do today, or where am I going to walk today? And, you know, but actually, you know, that's some people's lives, you know, that's a daily thing. And that's scary. Do you know what I mean? And I think the impact as we move out of the pandemic, hopefully, you know, kind of the numbers are looking good in terms of vaccinations and stuff. No, there's a bit of work to do for people. And there's a lot of people going to need a wee bit of support and getting back into normality. Because if we think about the transition from normal life into lockdown, right, and how you had to adjust, and now you're going to have to do the same again.
The same backwards, exactly.
I mean, when I used to, I was in like 4 or 5 meetings a day, bouncing from one place to the next all the time. See just thinking about it, I'm like, that sounds like hard work. Do you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
actually, and it's even now there's anxieties about doing things. I experience it myself. You just like normal things, you start to get a bit anxious because it's been kind of taken away from you, and you've been sitting in your own heat for so long.
Aye, things you wouldn't have batted an eyelid at before, like you say.
Exactly, and then obviously people are spending a lot more time on kind of social media and all these things, and it's not healthy for you. So the more we can get out, and the solution to it all is always people. The thing about street soccer is, although some of our players have experienced a variety of complex issues and have maybe some with some complex lives because of that, but actually the solutions isn't complex. The solution is people, being around people, being connected to people, having a purpose, and being able to access support that you need and advice that you need. So a lot of the issues that we face in Scotland sound complex, but the solution isn't. Do you know what I mean?
Just a bit of company.
But I just being around people. There's mental health is something that's kind of it's a talking point, of course, because it's affecting so many people, especially young people. And I think it's because we're not spending enough time with people. We're not we're not. I mean, the snow that the last few days has been a godsend because just seeing all the kids out playing in the snow without a phone in their hand, sledging,
Carefree.
That's what it used to be like, but now we're isolating ourselves through our phone and I could rant all day on this stuff, but I'm talking because it used to only worry about what the people who were close to you thought about you. And you used to only compare yourself with people around you. That was now you're comparing yourself with people who don't even exist. It's just a face.
Unattainable goal, exactly.
Just a face on a page. And then even kids just worry about what the world thinks about them. Even though it's just the only people that they need to worry about is people who are close to them.
You're spot on there. I think that's really interesting what you're saying. Because through street soccer, you don't just help adults and it's young people, and you have women's own courses, and you've got you really are helping a lot. What is basically the state of play with street soccer right now? Because I believe you won't fall under like the SFA banner of anything like that. So restriction wise, so where are you guys at right now?
So although we're not part of the SFA, we kind of operate out with their
independent,
yeah. So, but we need to be mindful that restrictions are for a reason. So actually, currently, we don't have any football. We're kind of abiding whatever the government's kind of guidelines are. We're following them strictly, for the safety of not only our players and our staff and the wider public. And although we know that that's potentially more damaging, not being able to come together, but what we have done is to mitigate it is make sure that we've got plenty of things in place to connect with players.
Yeah.
And our approach since kind of March, nearly a year now, has obviously varied depending on where we're at. Because when the first one came, it was almost like it was just a kind of crisis approach. So whatever we needed, so we're putting out food every day, and we're putting out meals and food supplies. We set up a hardship fund, so players could access up to 25 quid a month support. Regular phone calls, online sessions with loads of football guys come on and doing similar to this, live Zoom chats with the players. The players could access, we had guys and from all over Scotland sitting asking Harry Redknapp questions direct and all that, which was fantastic. Chris Sutton, Alan McCoist and so on. But now as we come into that, we've been back playing during the time. So obviously
fantastic,
over the year. So we've been back non-contact and then some contact, and then when it went to tiers, so it's quite confusing.
Complex, exactly.
Because you've got local authority and then you've got London as well. So London's a youth programme, so that's up to 18. So they were all right for most of the kind of autumn, right up to maybe the week before Christmas. So they were kind of largely unaffected. But like you had guys who are playing contact football in Aberdeen, non-contact and Dundee. Edinburgh was something different, and then Inverclyde, so it's just
exactly.
you can imagine trying to manage that. He managed
Exactly.
it. But now, just now, while we're in this current lockdown, we've got everything from yoga classes, fitness classes. We've got mental health support groups, recovery groups, one-to-one walking talks. We've got fitness challenges, so guys are taking part in like kind of Strava challenges and all these types of things. So just doing what we can, and the food thing, we don't want to repeat things that are already happening out there. So, during the first pandemic, quite a lot of small community food projects were created as a result. So, for people who have been kind of need access to food and all that, we're kind of connecting them through that rather than us trying to do everything,
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Fab.
Yeah.
You, again, like I say, you're very, very humble because you issued, is it 50 odd phones you issued to some of the players?
Yeah, so we'd get 50 handsets and then probably another 50 data packages as well for folk who had phones but just didn't have the data.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it was just based on what we need because we realised we're doing these online things, but if players don't have
Exactly.
access to software and like the smartphones and stuff, then we're leaving people behind. So yeah, we got smartphones. We've done quite a lot, to be fair, and that's down to, I mean, we've got loads of good supporters, thankfully, who can help fund some of this stuff. But the team have been fantastic in terms of just kind of, because it's hard, for me, as the kind of leader of the organisation, my first priority is probably the staff and making sure people are all right on that side, and the rest of the kind of management team, Andy and Norman, they've been kind of doing their best to make sure people are all right. But it's hard on everyone, especially more so our kind of frontline team, because their job is being out there, being amongst the players, and suddenly you're kind of stuck in, and your kind of purpose has been removed. So it's just trying to kind of keep everybody focused on, right, here's what we can do soon. Have that wee something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? 'Cause that gives you that wee bit of hope and optimism. And yeah.
You touched on there, you said you've got all right supporters. Fergie and Andy Robertson, they're not too bad, are they?
Yeah. So Sir Alex has been involved since 2010. And, most charities will have an ambassador. And when it came to finding ours, I was always mindful that I didn't I tried to avoid like Celtic and Rangers just because I didn't want to polarise, and you know what it's like in Glasgow sometimes, and so I always tried to avoid Celtic or Rangers. So I wrote a letter to Sir Alex, basically just using my Govan connection and stuff like that, and it worked.
Sorry, what a touch.
I know, and he was busy being the manager of Manchester United at the time, but no, he's been great. And then just more recently, kind of tail end of last year, Andy Robertson came on board, and again, Scotland captain, Premier League champion, he's a great ambassador and he's a good guy. Both of them are kind of really good role models. They understand what we do, they're supportive of what we do, and they're good figureheads for the organisation, and the two of them are passionate about communities, and it's an honour to have them both, and yeah, they're good guys.
You touched on it there, and I think Andy Robertson played a bit of a part in it. I could be wrong, but your big gala dinner, you have one every year. Obviously last year it had to be online. Is it looking that this one will need to be as well this year, or you try not to think that too far forward?
Yeah, I'm trying not to think of it too far, just because we don't know. But so we do a gala dinner every year. So I think we've had 3 kind of big kind of gala dinners at the Hilton and stuff like that, which is a big fundraiser for us. It allows us to do what we do. But then obviously we, COVID and stuff like that, there was no chance it was going to happen. So I think it was the end of May we did an online gala dinner at home. And it was just a kind of idea. This is before, there's been quite a few things like that now, but this was right at the start before Andy had really done one. And I was like, I phoned my colleague Norm, I was like, I've got an idea and all that, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, that sounds good and all that. It's like, when you think in October? I was like, no, in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
because the thing was, at the end of May, that was everybody starting to come out of the
It was
lockdown.
easing out, aye.
But at this point, nobody had a night out for ages. You know, everybody was going to be in the house. So see when it was coming to getting like artists and speakers and all that, you know, it was easy because you knew they were going to be in the house. They couldn't say no.
No excuse, exactly.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of, because if we'd left it a couple of months, a month or two later, I think this whole Zoom fatigue and the fact that people are allowed to do stuff, the last thing people are going to be is in the house on a Saturday night.
Exactly. It was that limbo stage then, eh?
Aye, but it was just the timing was perfect, eh?
Yeah.
And we get great support from, you know, the kind of, as I say, Harry was on, Andy Robertson done an interview, Caroline Weir from Man City in Scotland, with Jude, Josh Taylor, the boxer, Tom Grennan done the music for us on the night. Emma Dodds and Des hosted it with Gary Tank Commander done a sketch. I've probably forgot somebody, but
Start the list.
It was brilliant, you know, and I think we raised about 75 grand on the night. Do you know what I mean? And that's like, there was no so normally when we do a gala dinner, you've got a bit of an overhead because you haven't to book the venue and all that.
Yeah.
But it was like cost free, never cost us a penny. Do you know what I mean? So that was all and straight into to kind of funding the grassroots programs, which was a bit of a godsend, to be honest.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. That. I'm conscious of time. I know you're a busy guy. I just wanted to touch upon. It's not all about football. It's not all about just kicking the ball about. And I think I've really enjoyed. I think I'm at university and I'm still at Edinburgh Napier, so I've seen the links there, the personal development stuff. It's something that you really are really keen on.
Yeah. I mean, again, football is just a tool that brings people together. You know, it's all about the ultimate goal. You know, is for people to, you know, get a job, get a house, be happy. I mean, being happy probably the most important of it. You know, but in order to grow, you need to kind of, you know, you need to achieve, and sometimes you need to learn other stuff, and actually, it's more actually about giving people an opportunity to grow. You know, some people might just want to come to street soccer and play, and just to be around people, and that's enough, and that's fine. We don't have any expectation. We don't put expectations on people except for, you know, to kind of try to get along and, you know, treat each other with respect, and but then there's also that opportunity for people to access additional support, you know, and access training. And so we've got our own personal development programs, which was co-designed with Napier University. I think there's 5 modules. And again, it's like, you know, it's that kind of sense of achievement, actually getting people back into the kind of, you know, writing and, you know, qualification side of things, you know, to say, well, I can do this, what can I do, what else can I do? Because I was the same as myself, you know, I started doing wee courses and all that when I was doing the volunteering, and, you know, it kind of took away the fear factor, and then I went to college and stuff like that. So I think anything you can do to give people more choice and more options is important.
And like you say, it's just crucial to breaking down those barriers to reach education.
Definitely. And as I say, when I kind of ditched school, kind of 13, 14, I never thought I'd be kind of going back into a college, you know what I mean? Never thought I'd get let in, never mind anything else. But nah, it's good, and it's whatever people need. You know, if it's the football, if it's just the connections, if it's the mental health support, you know, we've got mental health support workers. We do what we can, and actually, you know, thankfully we work with a lot of great organisations who play their part. You know, because, you know, people need options to grow. You know, so we're an option at a certain point in someone's life, but then there's other options. There's other, you know, charities doing some great stuff who help people on the next. So, like, for example, here in Edinburgh and across the other cities, there's a charity, Working Right, who's a employability charity, kind of focused on kind of 16 to 25, and they kind of support kind of young people to kind of get into apprenticeships and jobs, and they're giving them that one-to-one support, and they kind of remove all the barriers. So, like, you know, bus fares to get there, or you might need certain things like your kind of lunch money and all that. They just support somebody so that, you know, rather than being set up to fail, you know, they're set up to succeed. and they'll do everything they can. So we work directly in partnership with them. So basically, they'll come, they work we've got a full-time staff member at our sessions who kind of works with the guys and guys who are kind of at the stage where they want to kind of go for a job or need support for that, then they can access that. And then what we do is we provide that safety net, because like when they're working with other young people and stuff in the city, if a young person's maybe fails or there's something going on, it means that they can't sustain the apprenticeship. What happens? They get lost. They go back into whatever they're doing. Whereas we provide that kind of safety trampoline where they can bounce in and out when needed. So we can give them the structure and somewhere to be and keep people focused and keep people a wee bit of structure, and then they can take them on again. So it's just a wee safety net. We call it a safety trampoline.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I've never heard that term. That is that's a really, really good term. I just wanted to touch upon how's the setup in the care centres up in Dundee. That was at the tail end of last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we actually just announced it last week, I think. So we're taking over the Lynch Sports Centre, which is in the kind of Lochee area, Dundee, and the centre's been there for many years, but there's been a lot of investment in Dundee and kind of new facilities and all that, and this was a building that was kind of might have been at risk of shutting down, so we kind of went into negotiations, and now we've taken over the site. So we've got a 20-year lease in the building, and we're just about to start a big kind of renovation job of it.
Fantastic.
And bringing new life into it and upgrading and making it a kind of like a kind of community hub where people can access support. We're going to have kind of loads of different charities based in there as well, and then there'll be two indoor football pitches and a kind of multi-sport pitch and stuff like that, just so that the community can access, street soccer players can access, and hopefully, I mean, it's called the Change Centre, so it's it's all about a centre for everybody, and whatever you need. And as I say, we'll work with local charities who identify a need in that area, and they'll come in and provide that, where it's haircuts or kind of pantry services and stuff like that. We'll support anything, but the core activity will be kind of using football as a tool for change, and using the education suites and all that upstairs. So really excited, delighted for the local guys in Dundee who work for us there. They're very proud of kind of getting that on board, and they realise in the kind of Lochee, Charleston areas and stuff like that, there's a real need for access to stuff like that and a bit of support, So we'll put a bit of love into it and hopefully give some out.
That's fantastic, and like you say, that'll obviously be a big focus for the year. So other than that, we have obviously said that it's a bit hard to predict what's happening, but where next for street soccer? Where are we heading?
So hopefully back onto the football pitches soon to start with. That would be
That'd be nice, eh?
Really one wish. That's the one. So we're kind of obviously just making sure that the guys get back to football safely. Try and reach out to more organisations, because if people who are struggling a wee bit, if there's people who's been affected by COVID and stuff like that, how can we get them out? How can we get people along, and give people a bit of support? Obviously Dundee's going to be a big project as well, kind of getting that up to scratch, hopefully opening end of summer. Just in time for winter, because it's indoor, so
exactly.
Especially in Dundee.
Nice and cosy, exactly up there.
I know. Just doing that, and then obviously supporting London. London's kind of just started in February there, so got a team down there working with young people in different boroughs. Try to kind of steer them away from kind of gang culture and stuff like that, and giving the young guys opportunity and girls. So I just get back on the pitch. Try and make sure that we kind of stay safe as an organisation in terms of financially secure, and then that's it.
Perfect. Well, as we've said, that's all we want, to be back on the pitch. So I did pitch this one to you just before we came on, give you a little bit of time to think about it. But obviously this show is called Soccer Supernova. So entail with Supernova, give me, what is your craziest game of football you've been involved with or watched or anything?
I would say I've been to a few crazy games of football. But the one that always sticks out, and it was a Scotland game. Remember when Scotland drew 2-2 with England at Hampden?
Yes,
And Lee
yes,
Griffiths scored 2 belts,
yes. Won't forget.
2 free kicks. So I remember being there with my pals, and it was like we're 1-0 down, and then standing, and we were kind of in line with the 18 yards. So like sitting a free kick there, and so we're kind of like in line with it. So we're sitting watching it.
Perfect.
And I'm like, wonder if this will go in, and boom, it goes in. So I'm like, yes.
That's the first
At
one.
that point, you're like jumping a bit mental, and you're thinking, yes, one each. We didn't get beat off England, do you know what I mean? And then we got a free kick again, and it just did the same thing almost. And, you know, it was almost the end of the game, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Minutes or something. And I was just like, yes. And I remember taking a picture of the scoreboard and everything so I could send it to my pals who were English. And took a picture of the scoreboard. I was like, yes. And it's like 90 minutes, you know, like winner. I can't believe it and all that. So, yeah. And then 90 seconds later.
Stuart Armstrong, clear the ball.
Yeah.
Just punt the ball.
Between him and the keeper, wasn't it? There's a mix up between him and the keeper. And then I was like, fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It felt like a loss.
It felt like a loss. It still feels like a loss.
Yeah, I mean, on the grand scale of things, 2 each is a probably good score against.
That was fantastic.
Because even when you look at the English team physically, they're all massive compared to these guys. And it's like athletes. But so that was probably the maddest game, and it was probably the best 90 seconds of my life.
I can remember. I wasn't there, but like you say, it felt like before the game you take a 2-2 any day, but it was that state of deflation, eh? That's all it was like.
It was mad because we were like jump as you do, cuddling each other.
Absolutely.
Yes, we've done it and all that. And this literally, as soon as we kind of gathered ourselves, we kind of looked to the right, and then the ball went in the net. I was like, couldn't believe it. But it was just that moment. I think I've still got the picture on my phone, just Scotland 2, England 1.
Keep that forever. Are you looking forward to the summer then? Looking forward to the summer?
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, see what happens. We get fans in and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You know? I think, it's going to be brilliant just to see Scotland back. And, you know, there's generations, you know, was it 23 years or something? You know,
I've never seen one.
So you've never seen one?
No, never seen one. So I was going to say, you're not a kick in the teeth. You'll not have seen many.
I've seen one. Well, probably, the one I remember is 98.
98, aye.
I remember watching the opening game and stuff like that. And again, do you know what I mean? One each for Brazil, and then we scored. Tommy Boyd scored an own goal over it. Poor Colin. But aye, it's looking forward to it. You know, kind of Scotland on the world stage, and I think, you know, Steve Clarke was getting a tough time in the build-up, you know, to the kind of qualifying games. But you could see what was. I mean, I was saying to one of my colleagues, I said, you can see what he's doing. You know,
like, he's building something.
Exactly. Is it why are we playing so defensive against like a team like that? They're rubbish. We should be playing with 2 up front and blah blah blah. I says, but he's trying to get them to play a system so that when we play the better teams, we're hard to beat, we're compact, and all we need is 1 or 2. If you don't concede a goal, you're always going to get a chance.
Absolutely.
And that's what he done, you know, and they played well. Do you know what I mean? They played the system well. Big McTominay's done a great job at the back. So I am really looking forward to it. I think we'll upset if I'm not saying we're going to go and start winning 3-0, but I think you know, I think we'll do all right. I don't think we'll get back.
I certainly hope not. Like you say, the McTominay in particular, they're hitting form at the right time, and it's exciting times. It really is.
And if you keep KT fit, you know what I mean, and
KT, Job McGinn, then you're in with a shout.
You know, keep the boys that are all playing in the Premier League, keep all them fit. Do you know what I mean? And the boy up front as well.
Lyndon Dykes,
you know, he's been brilliant.
It's absolutely outstanding. Just came from nowhere, obviously. Well, Livingston, obviously, but he's just what a rise. He's
only been playing the game like professionally for a few years, you know, because I think he was at Queen of the South.
Queen of the South, aye, and then Livy, and he's went down to QPR and that. So, aye, it's exciting times. Let's have World Cup winner David Duke and Euros winner Steve Clarke on our next show. So there we go. Catch you in a year, David. Thanks again for joining us on this show.
You. No, it was really good.
Well, nothing's went wrong, so let's end it on a high.
You'd be like, I forgot to press record.
Exactly. That's what I was checked that before. I was like, please make sure it's on. Please make sure it's on.
I done that once, right? So I done an interview. I think it was like a college this was like 10 years ago. Somebody phoned us for an interview about street soccer. Honestly, I was on the phone for like an hour. Right, that right, no bother. And then he's like, I forgot to press record. I was like,
I've just said all my good stuff.
and I was like, can you phone me back in half an hour? And I was like, patched it.
Stuff
I
your pal.
think I ended up doing it like 3 days later, but there's no
Exactly,
way.
just rub it in.
Yeah.
Be a bit better. No, I do not
Exactly.
blame you. Well, like again, thank you so much for joining us on Soccer Supernova.
Perfect. Thank you.